Hey everyone, I'm Monoscaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Mark Phillips. We went to sleep in peace, but woke to find Tony nailed to a tree, his eyes wide open. I should start from the beginning, though. People need context for what happened in Kisatchie Forest that October. They need to understand we weren't idiots. We weren't drunk college kids looking for thrills. We were 5 adults from a mid-sized marketing firm in Baton Rouge, and our regional manager thought a long weekend in the woods would improve team morale. The RV was Rachel's idea. She'd rented it for a discount through some connection her cousin had, said it would be more comfortable than tents and cheaper than cabins. It was a 2015 model, white with brown stripes, big enough for all 5 of us if we didn't mind close quarters. Rachel always had an angle, always knew someone who could get a deal. That's why she was climbing the ladder faster than the rest of us. We left Baton Rouge on a Thursday afternoon in early October. Tony Delgado rode shotgun, messing with the radio and telling his terrible jokes. Jeff Brennan, our senior account manager, sat in the back reading a paperback thriller. Melissa Santos had her earbuds in, staring out the window. I drove. Rachel navigated from her phone, periodically announcing turns in that clipped, efficient way she had. "Take Highway 165 north," she said. "We'll hit Kisatchie National Forest in about 2 hours." The forest sprawled across central Louisiana, over 600 acres and acres of pine and hardwood. The RV park we'd reserved was on the western edge, near the Calcasieu Ranger District. Rachel had picked it because it was secluded but still had hookups for water and electricity. "Best of both worlds," she'd said during the planning meeting at work. Traffic thinned as we drove north. The landscape shifted from suburban sprawl to rural stretches of farmland and pine forests. Tony finally settled on a classic rock station and leaned back in his seat. "This is exactly what I needed," he said. "No emails, no deadlines, just trees and beer." "We're supposed to be team building," Jeff said from the back without looking up from his book. "Building teams requires team spirits," Tony said. "As in alcohol. I brought a case of Abita." Nobody laughed, but nobody objected either. We all knew what this trip really was. Our manager's attempt to address the fact that 3 people had quit in the last 4 months. The workload was brutal, the clients were demanding, and the pay wasn't keeping up with inflation. A weekend in the woods wasn't going to fix those problems, but none of us were willing to turn down 3 days out of the office. We reached the entrance to Kisatchie National Forest around 6:30. The sun hung low, casting everything in amber light. Rachel directed me down a series of increasingly narrow roads until we found the RV park sign, a weathered wooden marker that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. The park itself was modest, maybe 20 sites scattered among the pines, most of them empty. A small office sat near the entrance, its lights off. A handwritten sign on the door read, "After hours check-in, see site map, and take any available spot." "That's convenient," Melissa said, her first words in an hour. Rachel consulted her phone. "We're prepaid, site 14. I navigated the RV down a gravel path that wound through the trees. Sites 1 through 13 passed by, all empty. When we reached 14, I understood why the place was deserted. The spot was nice enough, a cleared area with a picnic table, a fire ring, and hookups for water and electricity. But it was isolated. The nearest occupied site was back near the entrance, and thick forest pressed in on 3 sides. "Cozy," Tony said. I parked and we spent the next 30 minutes setting up. Jeff handled the electrical hookup while Melissa and Rachel arranged the interior. Tony and I gathered wood from the designated pile near Site 12 for a fire later. The air had that particular October quality, still warm during the day but with an edge of chill creeping in as the sun set. By the time we had everything sorted, it was past 7 and the forest had grown dark. Not the gradual twilight you get in cities where streetlights and buildings hold back the night. This was the real thing. A profound darkness that swallowed everything beyond our small circle of RV lights. We ate dinner at the picnic table, sandwiches and chips, nothing fancy. Tony cracked open his first beer. Jeff told a story about a camping trip he'd taken with his kids 10 years ago. Rachel checked her phone periodically until she realized there was no signal. "No bars," she said. "Anyone else?" We all checked. Nothing. "Must be a dead zone," Jeff said. "We're pretty deep in." "Great," Rachel muttered. She was the type who got anxious without her phone. Always needed to be connected, always needed to be doing something productive. After dinner, Tony insisted on building a fire. He was one of those guys who prided himself on outdoorsy skills despite living in a third-floor apartment and spending most weekends on his couch. But he got it going eventually, and we sat around the flames drinking beer and making small talk. The conversation died around 9. We were all tired from the drive, from the work week, from the general exhaustion of modern life. Melissa went inside first, then Rachel. Jeff finished his second beer and followed. Tony and I stayed by the fire. "You think this is going to help?" he asked. "Help what?" "The team, the morale." He gestured vaguely at the RV. "You think 3 days in the woods is going to make Rachel stop angling for everyone's job? Make Melissa talk to people? Make Jeff stop counting down to retirement? Probably not." "Yeah." He stared into the flames. "Still, beats being in the office." We sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled. Something rustled in the undergrowth to our left, probably a raccoon or a possum. The darkness beyond the firelight seemed to press closer. "You ever get the feeling," Tony said slowly, "that you're being watched?" I looked at him. "What?" "Never mind, too many beers." He stood up, stretched. "I'm calling it. See you in the morning." I stayed by the fire another 10 minutes, making sure it was dying down properly. The rustling came again, closer this time. I stood up, suddenly aware of how alone I was, how the RV's lights barely penetrated the surrounding darkness. I went inside and locked the door behind me. The RV had a small bedroom in the back where Rachel and Melissa were sleeping, and a convertible dinette where Jeff had set up. Tony had the overhead bunk above the driver's area. I got the couch, which folded out into a bed barely wide enough for my frame. I lay there in the dark, listening to Jeff's soft snoring from the dinette. The RV settled around me with little creaks and pops. Outside, the wind picked up, making the pines sway and whisper. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke suddenly in what felt like the middle of the night. The RV was pitch black. I fumbled for my phone to check the time, but the screen wouldn't turn on. Battery dead, which was strange. I'd charged it fully before we left. Something had woken me. A sound, maybe. I lay still, listening. There. A soft scraping noise, like something being dragged across gravel. It came from outside, near the front of the RV. I sat up slowly, trying not to wake Jeff. The scraping stopped. Then it started again, this time from the back of the RV near the bedroom where Rachel and Melissa slept. My heart rate picked up. I told myself it was an animal. A deer, maybe. They could make strange noises. The scraping circled the RV. It paused at each window as if something was looking in. I could hear it clearly now, not continuous but deliberate. Step, drag, step, drag. It stopped at my window. I held my breath. The darkness outside was absolute. I couldn't see anything, but I had the overwhelming sense that something was looking in, that if I moved or made a sound, whatever was out there would know I was awake. The seconds stretched. My chest started to hurt from holding my breath. Then it moved on, continuing its circuit around the RV. I waited until I couldn't hear it anymore before I allowed myself to breathe normally. Jeff's snoring had stopped. In the silence, I heard him whisper, "You heard it too?" "Yeah." "What do you think it was?" "I don't know." We lay there in the dark, listening. The sound didn't return. Eventually, Jeff's breathing deepened again into sleep. I stayed awake much longer, staring at the ceiling, jumping at every small noise. When I finally drifted off, I had fragmented dreams about being followed through dark woods by something I couldn't see. I woke to pale morning light filtering through the RV's windows. My neck was stiff from sleeping wrong on the narrow couch. I could hear movement in the back, Rachel or Melissa getting up. The smell of coffee drifted from the small kitchenette. Jeff was already dressed, standing by the window with a mug in his hand. "Morning," I said. He didn't respond. He was staring out the window with an odd expression on his face. "Jeff, come look at this." I got up and joined him at the window. He pointed toward the tree line, about 30 feet from the RV. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. There was a shape in the shadows between two pine trees, something that didn't quite fit the pattern of trunks and branches. Then my eyes adjusted and my brain tried to reject what they were showing me. Tony was nailed to a tree. He hung about 4 feet off the ground, his arms spread wide, hands pinned to the trunk with what looked like railroad spikes. His head lolled forward, chin resting on his chest. He was still wearing the same clothes from last night, jeans and a Tulane University hoodie. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. "Jesus Christ," I heard myself say. Rachel came out of the bedroom, coffee in hand. "What's wrong?" Jeff just pointed. Rachel looked. The mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Hot coffee splattered everywhere, but none of us moved. Melissa emerged, saw our faces, followed our gaze. She made a small sound in the back of her throat. "We need to call someone," Rachel said. Her voice sounded distant, mechanical. "We need to call the police." "No signal, remember?" Jeff said. "Then we drive. We drive until we get a signal." "We should check him first," I said. The words felt wrong in my mouth, absurd. "We should make sure he's dead, Mark," Jeff said quietly. "Look at him." I looked. Jeff was right. Tony wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. His skin had a waxy quality in the morning light. But someone had to check. Someone had to be sure. I forced myself to move toward the door. My legs felt disconnected from my body, like I was watching myself from a distance. Rachel grabbed my arm. "Don't. We have to check. What if whoever did this is still out there?" That stopped me. I looked at the forest surrounding our site. The trees stood silent and still in the morning air. Birds were singing somewhere, oblivious to what had happened here. "I'll go with him," Jeff said. We left the RV together. The morning air was cool and damp. Dew soaked through my sneakers as we walked across the grass toward Tony. With each step, more details became clear, and I wished they wouldn't. The spikes through his hands weren't railroad spikes. They were tent stakes, the long metal kind you use for securing lines in hard ground. Someone had driven them through his palms and into the tree trunk. The bark around the stakes was dark with dried blood. His eyes were open but clouded. Dried blood streaked down from his nose and the corner of his mouth. There were ligature marks on his wrists, red grooves in the skin where he'd been restrained before being nailed up. "Tony," Jeff said, though it was pointless. I reached out with a shaking hand and touched Tony's neck, feeling for a pulse I knew I wouldn't find. His skin was cold and stiff. "He's been dead for hours," I said. Jeff nodded. He looked like he might be sick. That's when I noticed Tony's feet. They were about 6 inches off the ground, but there was nothing supporting them. He simply hung there by the stakes through his hands. The weight of his body had pulled the flesh taut around the stakes. "We need to get him down," I said. "No." Jeff grabbed my arm. "We don't touch anything. This is a crime scene. We leave everything exactly as it is and we go get help." He was right, but it felt wrong to leave Tony hanging there like some grotesque decoration. We backed away from the tree, unable to stop staring. Then we turned and hurried back to the RV. Rachel and Melissa were waiting by the door. Rachel had thrown on jeans and a jacket over her pajamas. Melissa was fully dressed, her face pale. "We need to leave now," Rachel said. "Right now." "Agreed," Jeff said. "Mark, get us out of here." I climbed into the driver's seat. My hands were shaking as I tried to fit the key into the ignition. Behind me, Jeff was gathering our belongings, just throwing things into bags without any organization. Rachel stood by the window watching the forest. Melissa sat at the dinette, very still. The RV's engine turned over with its usual rumble. I put it in gear and started backing out of the site. That's when Rachel said, "Stop." What? Look at the road. I looked. The gravel path we'd driven in on the previous evening was blocked. Someone had dragged a massive fallen tree across it, a pine easily 3 feet in diameter. There was no way the RV could drive over it or around it. The forest was too dense on either side. When did that happen? Melissa asked. None of us had an answer. We'll move it, Jeff said. The 4 of us can roll it out of the way. We got out of the RV and approached the tree. Up close, it was even bigger than it had looked. The trunk was solid and heavy, still fresh enough that sap oozed from where branches had been torn off. On 3, Jeff said. We positioned ourselves along the trunk and heaved. It didn't budge. We tried again, straining with effort. The tree might as well have been cemented in place. It's too heavy, Rachel said. We need tools, an axe or a saw. There might be something at the office, I said, in the building near the entrance. That's a 1/4-mile walk, Melissa said. You have a better idea? She didn't. I'll go, Jeff said. The rest of you stay with the RV. I'm going with you, Rachel said immediately. Me too, I added. No way was I staying here alone with Tony's body 30 feet away. We left Melissa with the RV, which felt wrong, but she insisted she'd be fine. Lock the doors, Jeff told her. Don't open them for anyone except us. The 3 of us set off down the gravel path. The morning had grown warmer, but I couldn't stop shivering. We walked in silence, our footsteps crunching on the gravel too loud in the quiet forest. We passed the other empty campsites, 13, 12, 11, all deserted. Their picnic tables and fire rings standing like monuments to absent people. The place should have been busier. It was October, prime camping season. The emptiness felt deliberate now, like a trap. Someone killed him, Rachel said suddenly. Someone came into our camp last night while we were sleeping and took Tony and killed him. We don't know that, Jeff said. What else could have happened? You think Tony nailed himself to a tree? I'm saying we don't know anything yet. Let's just focus on getting help. But Rachel was right, and we all knew it. Someone had murdered Tony. Someone who was likely still in the forest, maybe watching us right now. We reached Site 7 when I noticed the smell. Faint at first, then stronger as we continued. A sweet rotten odor that made my stomach turn. You smell that? I asked. Jeff nodded. Something died out here. We found it at Site 5. A deer carcass lay in the middle of the camping area, its body torn open, organs spilled across the ground. But that wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part was how it was arranged. Someone had posed it. The deer's legs were spread in an X pattern, its head twisted at an unnatural angle to face the sky. And around it in a perfect circle someone had placed stones, dozens of them, each one roughly the same size, each one painted red. What the hell? Rachel whispered. Jeff approached the deer slowly, like it might jump up and attack. He crouched down, examining the stones. This is fresh, he said. This happened recently, maybe last night. We need to go, Rachel said. We need to go right now. We continued toward the entrance, moving faster now. The gravel path curved through the pines, and around the next bend we should have seen the office building. But we didn't. The path simply ended. Instead of the office, instead of the entrance with its weathered sign, there was just more forest. Dense, impenetrable forest that looked like it had been there for centuries. That's impossible, I said. We must have taken a wrong turn, Jeff said, but his voice lacked conviction. There are no wrong turns, Rachel said. This is the only path. We drove in on this exact road. We stood there staring at the wall of trees where the entrance should have been. A breeze stirred the branches, making them whisper and creak. This isn't real, Rachel said. She said it like a mantra over and over. This isn't real. This isn't real. Jeff turned around. We're going back to the RV. We're going back and we're going to figure this out. The walk back felt longer. None of us spoke. The smell of the dead deer followed us, or maybe we'd just gotten it in our clothes, in our lungs. When we finally reached Site 14, Melissa was standing outside the RV, her face white. "Thank God," she said. "I was starting to think—" "Think what?" Jeff asked. "That you weren't coming back." We told her what we'd found, the blocked entrance, the dead deer, all of it. She listened without interruption, her expression carefully neutral. "So we're trapped," she said when we finished. "We're not trapped," Rachel snapped. "There has to be another way out. We'll walk through the forest, follow the sun, something." "And leave the RV? Leave our supplies?" Jeff shook his head. "No. We stay together, we stay here, and we figure this out." "Figure what out?" Rachel's voice was rising, panic bleeding through. "Someone killed Tony. Someone is out there and they killed him, and now we're stuck here." "Everyone calm down," Jeff said. "Don't tell me to calm down. Rachel, he was alive last night. Tony was alive and sitting by the fire and making stupid jokes, and now he's nailed to a fucking tree." Her voice cracked on the last word. Melissa moved to comfort her, but Rachel jerked away. "I'm going to check the RV," I said, needing to do something, anything. "Make sure everything's secure." I climbed inside and did a thorough inspection. All the windows were intact, all the locks functional. Nothing seemed disturbed. Our supplies were where we'd left them. Food in the small refrigerator, camping gear stowed in the overhead compartments, our bags piled on the beds. That's when I noticed something odd. Tony's bag was gone. I checked everywhere, under the beds, in the bathroom, in all the storage areas. His green duffel bag with the New Orleans Saints logo wasn't anywhere in the RV. I went back outside. The others were sitting at the picnic table, looking defeated. "Tony's bag is gone," I said. They stared at me. "What do you mean gone?" Jeff asked. "I mean it's not in the RV. Someone took it." "When?" Melissa asked. "When could someone have taken it?" None of us had an answer. We'd all been in the RV last night. We'd all been sleeping when Tony was taken. "Check your bags," Jeff said. "See if anything else is missing." We did. Everything else was accounted for. Only Tony's bag was gone. "Why would someone kill him and take his bag?" Rachel asked. "That doesn't make sense." "None of this makes sense," I said. We spent the next hour discussing options. We could try walking out through the forest, but none of us knew these woods, and we didn't have proper hiking equipment. We could stay with the RV and hope someone else came to the campground. We could try to move the fallen tree again with better leverage. All the options felt inadequate, like rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. Around noon, Melissa said she was going to lie down. She'd barely slept, she said, and had a splitting headache. We agreed to take turns keeping watch. 2 people outside at all times, 2 people resting inside. Jeff and I took the first shift. We sat at the picnic table, not talking much, just watching the forest. Tony's body was still visible between the trees, a constant reminder of our situation. I kept trying not to look at it, but my eyes kept drifting that direction. "You were in the Marines, right?" I asked Jeff. "Basic training, survival skills, all that?" "Army, actually. And that was 30 years ago. I fixed trucks, Mark. I wasn't some special forces operative. Still, you must know something about surviving in the wilderness." "I know we're not equipped for this. I know it's going to get cold tonight. I know we have maybe 3 days of food if we ration it, less if we don't." "You're really optimistic." "I'm realistic. Someone did this deliberately. Blocked the road, killed Tony, made sure we couldn't get out easily. That level of planning means whoever did it isn't done. They're going to come back." "What do you think they want?" "I don't know, but I think we should assume it's nothing good." The afternoon crawled by. Rachel relieved us around 3, taking Jeff's place while he went inside to rest. She sat rigid at the picnic table, her jaw clenched, radiating tension. "We should have left yesterday," she said. "As soon as it got dark and creepy, we should have packed up and left. It didn't seem that bad, didn't it? No cell service, no other campers, that weird feeling like we were being watched. All the warning signs were there. We just ignored them." I couldn't argue with that. Around 4, Melissa came out of the RV. She looked worse than before. Her skin had a grayish tint. and she was sweating despite the cool temperature. "You okay?" I asked. "Just need some air. It's stuffy inside." She sat down at the picnic table, but within minutes she was hunched over, dry heaving. Rachel moved to help her, but Melissa waved her away. "I'm fine, just carsick or something." "We're not moving." "You know what I mean." But I didn't think it was motion sickness. Melissa looked genuinely ill. Jeff emerged from the RV, looking grim. "We have a problem." "Another one?" Rachel asked. "The water's gone." "What?" "The freshwater tank. It was full yesterday. Now it's empty." We all went inside to look. Jeff was right. The tank gauge read 0. Somehow, overnight, 40 gallons of water had disappeared. "It must be a leak," I said. "Then where's the water?" "The floor is dry. There's no water anywhere." We checked outside, looking for wet ground around the RV, any sign of where the water could have gone. Nothing. It had simply vanished. "Someone drained it," Rachel said. "They drained it while we were sleeping." "How?" Jeff asked. "The valves are all closed. You can't drain a sealed tank without opening a valve." "Then someone opened the valves." "When?" "We've been watching all day. No one approached the RV." The argument went in circles. Eventually, we gave up trying to explain it. We had 3 bottles of water left in the refrigerator and maybe half a gallon in the kettle. That was it. As the sun started to set, painting the sky orange and purple, a new kind of fear settled over us. The darkness was coming, and we had no idea what it would bring. "We're not sleeping tonight," Jeff announced. "We take shifts, 2 people awake at all times, lights on, doors locked. We make it through tonight, and tomorrow we hike out, water or no water." Nobody argued. We went through our supplies, doing inventory. 3 bottles of water, 2 bags of chips, a loaf of bread that was already going stale, half a dozen granola bars, some lunch meat that was starting to smell off. Not much for 4 people. Melissa threw up twice more before dark. She insisted she was fine, just stressed, but she looked worse each time, paler, more drawn, with dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there that morning. Full darkness fell around 7:30. We turned on every light in the RV and huddled inside. Jeff and I took the first watch while Rachel tried to rest in the back bedroom. Melissa lay on the dinette bench shivering under a blanket despite the temperature being mild. "What do you think happened to him?" I asked Jeff quietly. "To Tony. I think someone took him while we were all sleeping. Drugged us maybe, or just waited until we were deep enough in sleep that we wouldn't wake up. And then they did what they did. But why? Why go through all that effort? Why not just kill us all in our sleep?" Jeff was quiet for a long time. "Maybe they wanted us to see it. Wanted us to wake up and find him like that. That's sick." "Yeah." Around midnight, Rachel and I switched with Jeff and Melissa. Jeff protested that Melissa shouldn't be on watch duty in her condition, but she insisted. She looked marginally better. Some color had returned to her face, and she wasn't shaking anymore. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, staring out the windshield. I took the driver's seat. Outside, the darkness was complete. Our lights reflected off the trees, creating pockets of brightness that made the surrounding shadows seem even deeper. "You ever wonder what happens after we die?" Rachel asked suddenly. "That's a weird question. Is it? Tony's out there right now. His body is out there. And whatever he was, whatever made him Tony, is gone. So where does it go? I don't know." "Me neither. I always figured I'd have more time to figure it out." "We're going to be okay," I said, not believing it. "You're a terrible liar, Mark." We sat in silence. An hour passed. Then another. Around 2 in the morning, Melissa stood up and went to the bathroom. I heard water running, which was strange since our tank was empty. "Melissa," I called. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. The water kept running. I got up and knocked on the bathroom door. "Melissa!" Still no answer. I tried the handle. Locked. "Melissa, open the door." Rachel joined me. "What's wrong?" "She's in there and she's not responding." Rachel knocked harder. Melissa, answer us." The water shut off. After a moment, the lock clicked and the door opened. Melissa stood there, looking at us with a strange expression. "What?" she asked. "We were calling you. Why didn't you answer?" "I didn't hear you. The water was running. Where did you get water?" She looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "We heard water running in there. I didn't turn on any water. I don't know." I blanked out for a second. Rachel pushed past her into the tiny bathroom. The sink was dry. So was the toilet. "There's no water here," she said. "I told you," Melissa said. "I didn't run any water." But I'd heard it. We'd both heard it. Clear as day. Water running through pipes, splashing into a basin. Melissa went back to the dinette and lay down. She was asleep within minutes, her breathing deep and even. Too fast, too easy. Nobody falls asleep that quickly, especially not in a situation like this. Rachel and I exchanged looks. Neither of us said what we were both thinking, that something was wrong with Melissa, that whatever was happening here had started to affect her. Dawn came eventually, a gray lightening of the sky that brought no comfort. When Jeff woke up and relieved us, I fell onto the couch and crashed hard, too exhausted to care about the danger. I dreamed of Tony. He was standing in front of me, smiling his usual goofy smile, except his hands were gone, replaced by smooth stumps that ended at the wrists. He kept trying to tell me something, but no sound came out. His mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear. Then his eyes rolled back in his head and his smile widened wider than any human smile should go, and I saw that his teeth were filed to points. I woke up gasping. Daylight streamed through the RV's windows. My watch said it was past noon. I'd slept for almost 6 hours. I sat up, disoriented, and looked around. The RV was empty. "Hello?" I called. No response. I got up and checked the bedroom. Empty. The bathroom. Empty. Where was everyone? I rushed to the door and looked outside. Jeff was sitting at the picnic table, his head in his hands. Rachel stood nearby, staring at something in the trees. "What's going on?" I asked as I climbed out. Jeff looked up. His eyes were red. "She's gone," he said. "Who?" "Melissa. We sent her to look for more firewood about an hour ago. She never came back." I felt my stomach drop. "You sent her out alone?" She insisted. Said she needed to move around, needed to do something. We watched her walk into the trees right there. He pointed. She was only going 20 feet. We could see her the whole time. "So where is she?" "We don't know. One second she was there, bending down to pick up branches. The next second she just wasn't." "That's impossible." "Yeah, well, add it to the list of impossible things happening here." We searched the area where Melissa had disappeared. There were footprints in the soft dirt leading into the trees, but they stopped abruptly after about 15 feet. Just stopped, like she'd been lifted into the air. We called her name until our voices were hoarse. We searched in expanding circles around the RV, pushing into the dense forest, getting scratched by branches and tangled in underbrush. No sign of her, no calls for help. Nothing. By mid-afternoon, we had to accept that she was gone. "Should we keep looking?" I asked. "Where?" Jeff said. "We've covered every inch of ground for 100 yards in every direction. She's not here." "Maybe she wandered off," Rachel suggested. "Maybe she was still sick and got disoriented." "Her footprints stop," Jeff said. "They don't wander. They stop." "Then where is she?" No one had an answer. We went back to the RV and collapsed inside, defeated. We were down to 3 people now. 2 dead or missing. 3 survivors trapped in an RV in the middle of a forest that shouldn't exist. "We're leaving," Rachel said. "Right now. We're leaving the RV, taking what we can carry, and we're walking out of here." "And go where?" Jeff asked. "The entrance is blocked. Then we go through the forest. We pick a direction and we walk until we find a road or a house or something. We'll get lost. We don't have proper supplies for a hike. No compass, no map, limited water. We'll die if we stay here. We'll die if we go out there unprepared." They argued while I sat there trying to think. Something about Melissa's disappearance bothered me beyond the obvious horror of it. Something felt wrong in a different way. Then it hit me. She came back, I said. They both stopped arguing and looked at me. What? Rachel asked. Melissa. Think about when she started acting weird. It was after her headache yesterday, after she went to lie down. So what if she didn't just lie down? What if she left the RV for some reason, went into the forest, and when she came back, she wasn't Melissa anymore? Jeff stared at me. That's insane. Is it? More insane than footprints that stop in the middle of nowhere. More insane than 40 gallons of water disappearing from a sealed tank. What are you suggesting? Rachel asked quietly. I'm suggesting that whatever took Tony, whatever is keeping us here, it got Melissa too. Maybe yesterday, maybe earlier. And what came back wasn't her. Then where's the real Melissa? I didn't have an answer for that. We sat in heavy silence. Outside, the afternoon shadows were lengthening. Soon it would be dark again, and I wasn't sure any of us could handle another night in this place. I want to look at Tony's body, Rachel said suddenly. Why? Jeff asked. Because maybe there's something we missed. Some clue about what happened to him, about what's happening to all of us. Rachel, I don't think... I'm going, she said. You two can stay here if you want. She went before we could stop her. Jeff and I followed, neither of us wanting to approach Tony's corpse again, but unwilling to let Rachel go alone. The body was still there, still nailed to the tree. In the 2 days since we'd found it, the decomposition had progressed. The smell hit us before we got close. Sweet and rotten, the smell of meat going bad. Tony's skin had taken on a grayish-green tint. His eyes, which had been open before, were now closed. His head hung at a different angle than I remembered. Something's wrong, Jeff said. Everything's wrong, Rachel replied. No, I mean... His eyes. They were open yesterday, now they're closed. We moved closer, despite every instinct screaming at us to run. Jeff was right. Tony's eyes were definitely closed now. And his mouth, which had been hanging open, was now shut in something almost like a smile. Dead bodies don't move on their own, I said. Maybe animals? Rachel suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. Jeff reached out slowly and touched Tony's face. The skin was cold and waxy. He lifted one eyelid. Tony's eye was gone. Just an empty socket, dark and hollow. Jeff jerked his hand back. Jesus Christ. What? Rachel asked. His eyes are gone. Both of them. We all looked at the ground around the tree, looking for any sign of what might have taken them. Nothing. Just pine needles and dirt. We need to go, I said. Right now. We started to back away from the tree. That's when Tony's head moved. It was subtle at first, just a small twitch, a slight rotation. Then his jaw fell open and a sound came out, a wet, rasping exhalation that formed words. Don't! Leave! Rachel screamed. We ran. We scrambled back to the RV and threw ourselves inside, slamming and locking the door. Our chests heaved as we gasped for air. Nobody spoke for a long time. That wasn't real, Rachel finally said. That was. It was gases, right? When bodies decompose, they release gases that can make sounds. It wasn't really talking. It said, don't leave, I said. That's not random gas escaping. There has to be an explanation. The explanation is that something is very, very wrong here, Jeff said. This forest, this campground, none of this is natural. We're in something's territory, and it's playing with us. Things like that don't exist, Rachel said. You saw it. You heard it. I don't know what I saw. A knock on the door made us all jump. We froze, staring at the door. The knock came again, 3 precise raps on the metal. Don't answer it, Rachel whispered. Who's there? Jeff called out. It's me. Melissa's voice, clear as day, coming from just outside the door. Let me in, guys. It's cold out here. We looked at each other. Jeff moved toward the door, but I grabbed his arm. That's not her, I said. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Whatever that is, it's not Melissa. Another knock. Come on, guys, this isn't funny. Open the door. Melissa? Rachel called. Where did you go? I just went for a walk. I needed some space. Are you going to let me in or not? Tell us something only Melissa would know, Rachel said. Silence from outside. Then, what? Answer the question. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Let me in. The door handle rattled as something tried to turn it. The lock held. Let me in. The voice was still Melissa's, but louder now, more insistent. Go away, Jeff said. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. We need to stick together. Please, please let me in. The knocking turned to pounding, fists beating against the door in a frantic rhythm. The whole RV shook with the impacts. Then it stopped. We waited, barely breathing. Minutes passed. Nothing. I moved to the window and carefully looked outside. There was no one there. The picnic table sat empty. The forest stood silent. It's gone, I said. For now, Jeff replied. Night fell for the third time since we'd arrived at Kisachi Forest. We were out of water except for a few sips left in one bottle. The food was gone except for a few crackers. My lips were cracked and my mouth felt like cotton. We kept all the lights on again, burning through the RV's battery. Jeff estimated we had maybe 12 hours of power left, then we'd be in darkness. We leave at first light, he said. No arguments. We take whatever we can carry and we walk out of here. What about Melissa? Rachel asked. What about Tony? They're gone. We can't help them. All we can do is save ourselves. Rachel nodded, but I could see the guilt in her face. We all felt it. We were abandoning our co-workers, our friends. But what choice did we have? Around midnight, I was sitting in the driver's seat when I saw something move in my peripheral vision. I turned to look out the side window. Melissa stood about 20 feet away at the edge of the light. She wasn't looking at the RV. She was looking up at the sky, her head tilted back at an uncomfortable angle. Her arms hung at her sides. She's out there, I said. Jeff and Rachel crowded to the window. We watched Melissa for several minutes. She didn't move except for her chest rising and falling with breath. Then, slowly, she lowered her head and looked directly at us. Her eyes were completely black. Not dark brown, not shadowed. Black from edge to edge, like someone had replaced them with pools of ink. She smiled. It was Melissa's smile, but wrong. Too wide, too knowing. Then she turned and walked into the forest, disappearing between the trees. What do we do? Rachel whispered. Nothing, Jeff said. We stay here. We don't go out there. Whatever that is, it wants us to follow. That was Melissa. That was something wearing Melissa's face. We watched the forest, but she didn't reappear. The darkness seemed to pulse with hidden movement, shapes that might have been trees or might have been something else. An hour later, Rachel went to use the bathroom. I heard her go in, heard the door close. Then I heard her scream. Jeff and I rushed to the bathroom door. Rachel stumbled out, her face white. Look, she said, pointing. We looked. Written on the bathroom mirror in what appeared to be condensation were two words, midnight tomorrow. What does that mean? Rachel asked. I don't know, Jeff said, but I thought maybe he did. I thought maybe we all did. We had until tomorrow at midnight. That's when whatever was toying with us would finish the game. The rest of the night passed in tense silence. We took turns watching, though none of us could really rest. Every sound made us jump. Every shadow seemed to move with intention. Dawn came slowly, painting the sky gray and pink. We'd made it through another night. 3 of us were still alive. Time to go, Jeff said. We packed what little we had into backpacks, a few bottles we'd found with drops of water in them, the remaining crackers, some extra clothes. Jeff had a pocket knife. That was our only weapon. Before we left, I took one last look at Tony's body. It was gone. The tree was still there, the spikes still embedded in the bark, but Tony's corpse had vanished. Only dried blood remained, dark stains on the trunk. Don't look at it, Jeff said. Just walk." We started down the gravel path, heading in what we hoped was the direction of the main road. The forest was quiet except for our footsteps. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. The silence was oppressive, like the whole world was holding its breath. We walked for what felt like hours. The path never changed. The same gravel, the same trees on either side, the same overcast sky above. We should have reached something by now, a road, a building, some sign of civilization, but there was nothing. "We're going in circles," Rachel said. "No, we're not," Jeff replied. "We've been walking straight this whole time." "Then why haven't we gotten anywhere?" She was right. Despite walking for hours, nothing had changed. It was like we were on a treadmill, moving without making progress. "This isn't real," I said. "This whole place, it's not real. It can't be." "It feels pretty fucking real to me," Rachel snapped. We kept walking. What else could we do? The sun reached its peak, then started to descend. By my watch, it was almost 5 p.m. We'd been walking for over 8 hours. My feet ached. My mouth was so dry I could barely swallow. That's when we saw the RV. It sat exactly where we'd left it that morning at Site 14. The picnic table, the fire ring, everything was exactly as we remembered it. "No," Rachel said. "No, no, 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 no." "We walked in a straight line," Jeff said. "We walked in a straight line for 8 hours. We shouldn't be back here." But we were. There was no denying it. Somehow, impossibly, we'd walked in a massive circle and ended up right where we started. "It's not going to let us leave," I said. "Then we try again," Jeff said. "Different direction. He stopped talking. He was looking at something over my shoulder, his face going pale. I turned around. Melissa stood at the tree line. Next to her was Tony. They both watched us with black eyes and 2 wide smiles. Behind them, shapes moved in the shadows. Human-shaped, but wrong. Too tall or too thin or moving in ways that defied biology. "Run," Jeff said. We ran for the RV. My legs felt like lead, my lungs burning. Behind us, I could hear footsteps, multiple sets getting closer. We reached the RV and threw ourselves inside. Jeff slammed the door and locked it. Immediately, fists started pounding on the exterior, a cacophony of impacts that shook the entire vehicle. Through the windows, I could see them. Melissa and Tony in front, their faces pressed against the glass. Behind them, dozens of others, some that looked almost human, some that didn't, all with those black eyes. All smiling. The pounding intensified. The RV rocked back and forth. Cracks started to form in the windows. "They're going to get in," Rachel said. She sounded detached, like she'd accepted it. Jeff grabbed his pocket knife, the only weapon we had. "Then we fight." The window above the dinette shattered inward. A hand reached through, fingers too long, moving in a way that suggested too many joints. It groped blindly, searching for the door lock. I grabbed a pan from the kitchen and smashed at the hand. It withdrew with a sound like laughter. More windows broke. More hands reached in. The door buckled under the assault. "This is it," I said. "This is how it ends." Then the pounding stopped. The sudden silence was deafening. We stood frozen, weapons raised, waiting for the next attack. It didn't come. Slowly, I moved to the window and looked out. They were leaving. All of them. Melissa and Tony and the others were walking back into the forest, melting into the shadows. Within minutes, we were alone again. "Why did they stop?" Rachel asked. Jeff checked his watch. "It's 11:30. We all understood. They didn't want us dead yet. They wanted us alive for whatever was coming at midnight. The last 30 minutes were the longest of my life. We sat in the darkening RV, watching the clock tick down. None of us spoke. What was there to say? At 11:58, Melissa appeared outside. Just Melissa this time, standing in the clearing, looking at the RV. She raised one hand and beckoned us to come out. "Don't," Jeff said, but I was already moving toward the door. I don't know why. Some compulsion I couldn't fight, or maybe just acceptance. Maybe I was tired of running. tired of being scared, tired of not understanding. "Mark, don't." Rachel grabbed my arm, but I shrugged her off. I unlocked the door and stepped outside. The night air was cool on my skin. The stars overhead were bright, too bright, arranged in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Melissa smiled at me, and for just a moment, she looked like herself again, like my coworker, my friend. "It doesn't have to hurt," she said. "You can join us, it's better here. You'll see." Behind me, I heard the RV door open. Jeff and Rachel had followed me out. We stood together in the clearing, the three of us, facing Melissa and the darkness beyond. "What are you?" I asked. Her smile widened. "We're what comes after. We're what's always been here, waiting." The forest around us began to glow. Not with light exactly, but with something else, a luminescence that existed in a spectrum my eyes weren't meant to see. Shapes moved between the trees, coalescing, taking form. I saw Tony among them, whole again, the wounds in his hands healed. He waved at me and I found myself waving back. The glow intensified. I felt it pulling at me, not physically, but deeper than that, pulling at something essential. "Mark," Rachel said. Her voice sounded very far away. "Mark, we have to go. We have to go right now." But I couldn't move. None of us could. We stood transfixed as the forest came alive around us, as the boundary between what was real and what couldn't be real dissolved like morning mist. The last thing I remember from that night was Melissa reaching out to take my hand. Her skin was cold, but her grip was gentle. "Don't be afraid," she said. "It's almost over." Then my watch beeped midnight, and everything changed. They found us 3 days later. A park ranger doing a routine check discovered the RV at Site 14. We were inside, all three of us, unconscious but alive, dehydrated, malnourished, but alive. We spent a week in the hospital. The doctors said we'd suffered some kind of group psychosis, probably brought on by carbon monoxide poisoning from a leak in the RV's heating system. That was their explanation for our matching stories, our shared delusions. They never found Tony or Melissa. The search parties combed every inch of Kisatchie National Forest within a 10-mile radius of the campground. Nothing. It was like they'd never existed. Except I have the employee directory from work with their photos in it. I have emails from Tony in my inbox, texts from Melissa. They were real. They existed. I tried to tell the investigators what really happened. They nodded and wrote it down, and I could see them thinking, trauma response and PTSD and needs psychiatric evaluation. Eventually, I stopped trying to explain. Jeff retired early. He sold his house and moved to Florida, as far from forests and campgrounds as he could get. Rachel transferred to our company's New York office. We don't keep in touch. I still work at the same firm, still live in Baton Rouge. Sometimes I drive past the exit for Highway 165 North and I think about turning, about going back to Kisatchie to find answers. I never do. But 3 months after it happened, I woke up in the middle of the night with a strange compulsion to check my phone. I had a new text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. It was a picture of the RV at Site 14, taken at night. The lights were on inside and I could see shapes moving behind the windows. Human shapes. 5 of them. I counted. Me, Jeff, Rachel, Melissa, and Tony. The timestamp on the photo was from 2 days ago. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I pull up a map and look at Kisatchie National Forest. I zoom in on the campground, on Site 14. According to the satellite view, there's nothing there but trees. No RV, no cleared camping spot, no picnic table. Site 14 doesn't exist. But I remember it. I remember the gravel path, the pine trees pressing close, the smell of the fire. I remember Tony's face as he told his jokes by the firelight. I remember Melissa's black eyes and her too wide smile. Most of all, I remember what she said. We're what comes after. We're what's always been here, waiting. I think about that a lot, about what's waiting in the forest, in the dark places, in the spaces between what we know and what we can't accept. I think about how thin the barrier might be, how easy it would be to slip through. And I think about that photo on my phone, the one I deleted, but that keeps reappearing. 5 shapes in an RV that doesn't exist, in a campsite that was never there. Sometimes I wonder which side of the barrier I'm really on. Sometimes I wonder if I ever left that forest at all. My name is Jessica Lane. At least I think it is. I found my driver's license this morning in the glove compartment of the RV, and that's what it says. Jessica Marie Lane, age 28, from Portland, Oregon. The photo looks like me. I'm holding it now, staring at this stranger's face that's supposed to be mine, and I'm trying to remember what it felt like to be her, to be me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, or what I think is the beginning. We arrived at Fish Lake National Forest on a Thursday. I know this because I found a calendar in the RV with the date circled, October 12th, 2023. Someone wrote Fish Lake with 3 exclamation points. The handwriting looks like mine, but I can't be sure. There's a receipt from a gas station in Richfield, Utah, time-stamped at 2:47 p.m. that same day. These are the facts I have. Everything else is fragments. I was with someone, a man. I know this because there are men's clothes in the RV, size large, and his toothbrush is in the bathroom next to mine. Blue, not red. I think his name was David, but that might be wrong. When I try to picture his face, I see features that could belong to anyone. Brown hair, maybe? Glasses? I'm not sure. The harder I try to remember, the more it slips away, like trying to hold water in my hands. The RV park was nearly empty when we got there. I remember that part clearly, or at least I think I do. There were only 3 other RVs in the loop, spread out with empty spaces between them. The park ranger who checked us in had a thick gray beard and didn't smile. He gave us a map and said something about the weather, but I can't recall what. Was it supposed to rain? Snow? I don't know. We parked in spot 17. I know this because there's a wooden post outside with the number on it, and I've checked it maybe 50 times in the past 3 days. Or has it been 3 days? The calendar shows it should be October 15th now, but my phone died, and I can't find the charger. And the RV's clock is blinking 12:00 like it's been reset. The fog came on the first night. I remember we made dinner, or I think we did. There's a dirty pan in the sink with remnants of what looks like scrambled eggs, but that could be from any meal. We might have talked about hiking the next day. There's a trail map on the table with a route marked in pencil. Someone drew a little star near something called Mill Meadow Reservoir. Around 9 p.m., I'm guessing based on how dark it was, the fog rolled in. Not normal fog. This was thick, the kind where you can't see 3 feet in front of you. It pressed against the RV windows like something solid, and the temperature dropped fast. I remember putting on a sweatshirt, dark blue with a coffee stain near the hem. What I don't remember is going to sleep. There's a gap, a blank space where hours should be. One moment I was sitting at the small dining table, looking at the fog through the window, and the next I was waking up on the floor next to the bed, fully clothed with no memory of how I got there. The man, David, I'll call him David, was gone. His side of the bed hadn't been slept in. The sheets were pulled tight, military corners, like in a hotel. I know he was the one who made the bed because I never fold corners like that. Or maybe I do. I don't know anymore. When I looked outside, the fog was still there, but different. Thinner in some places, thicker in others, moving in ways that didn't match the wind. I opened the door and called out his name. David! My voice sounded wrong, like I was hearing it through water. No response. I should have been more worried. I should have panicked. But instead, I felt this strange calm, like I was watching myself from outside my body. I put on shoes, sneakers, not hiking boots, and stepped out into the fog. The air smelled metallic. Copper, maybe. Like old pennies or blood, though there was no blood that I could see. The fog moved around me, and I walked toward the nearest RV, 2 spots down. Number 15. There was a light on inside, a warm yellow glow that looked inviting. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time, and said, "Hello? Is anyone there?" The door opened, and a woman stood there. She was maybe 40, with short blonde hair and a confused expression. She stared at me like she'd never seen another person before. "Do you know where—" I started to say, but then stopped because I couldn't remember what I was going to ask. Where what? Where who? The thought was gone. "I'm sorry," the woman said. "I don't." "Who are you?" "Jessica," I said automatically. "I'm in spot 17, have you seen—" But again the words disappeared. Seen who? What was I looking for? The woman's face crumpled. "I don't know who I am," she whispered. "I woke up and I can't remember my name. My husband is here, I think. There's a man in the bedroom, but I don't know if he's my husband or just someone who's here. And I can't remember what his name is or my name or—" She started crying and I didn't know what to do. "It's okay," I said, even though it wasn't. "It's probably just— maybe you hit your head or something, or you're still half asleep." But I knew that wasn't true. Because standing there looking at this crying woman whose name I didn't know, I realized I couldn't remember my mother's face, or my childhood home, or what I did for work. There were words, marketing, campaigns, social media, but they were just words without meaning. "The fog," the woman said. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "It came last night and then I can't." From inside the RV, a man's voice called out, "Linda, is someone at the door?" The woman, Linda apparently, turned and shouted back, "I don't know. I don't know who's at the door." Then to me, "Is my name Linda? He keeps calling me Linda, but I don't know if that's right." I backed away. "I'm sorry. I need to find someone." I walked back toward my RV through the fog, and that's when I realized I'd forgotten which spot I was in. They all looked the same. White rectangles with darkened windows. I found my way by counting. 15, 16, 17. My RV. Spot 17. David still wasn't back. I went inside and searched for anything that might help me understand what was happening. In the glove compartment, I found our registration papers. David Brenner. That was his full name. And there was mine. Jessica Marie Lane. We lived at the same address in Portland, which meant we lived together, which meant we were probably dating. Probably serious, if we were taking a week-long RV trip together. But I couldn't remember his face. I looked at the photos on my dead phone, managed to get it to turn on for a few seconds before it died again, and saw pictures of us together, hiking, at restaurants, on a beach somewhere. We looked happy. But the man in the photos was a stranger, and the woman with him wasn't quite me. Close, but not quite. Around noon, I think it was noon, the light had that flat midday quality. Someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find a young couple, maybe mid-20s. The woman had dark curly hair and wore a purple jacket. The man was tall, skinny, with a nervous energy about him. "Sorry to bother you," the woman said. We're trying to find out if anyone knows what's going on. With the fog and everything." "Come in," I said, because what else was I going to do? They introduced themselves as Maya and Tyler. They were in spot 12, the one closest to the entrance. Maya did most of the talking. Tyler kept looking around the RV like he was searching for something. "We woke up this morning and couldn't remember anything," Maya said. She sat at the dining table, her hands clasped in front of her. "Not our families, not where we're from, nothing. Tyler thinks we're engaged because I have a ring, but I can't remember him proposing. I can't remember him at all, really. No offense," she added, glancing at Tyler. "None taken," Tyler said quietly. "I can't remember you either, or myself. I found my ID. Says I'm Tyler Chen from Sacramento, but I don't know what that means. Sacramento could be on the moon for all I know." I told them about David being missing, about the woman named Linda who couldn't remember her own name. Maya nodded like this all made perfect sense, which was somehow more disturbing than if she'd freaked out. "The fog," she said. "It did something to us." "That's not possible," I said. But even as I said it, I knew I didn't believe it. What other explanation was there? Tyler stood up and went to the window. "It's getting thicker again, look." He was right. The fog was pressing closer, darker now, with that same strange copper smell seeping in through the vents. I felt a sudden desperate need to get out of there, to drive away, but when I looked for the RV keys, I couldn't find them. I searched every drawer, every pocket, every logical place they could be, but they were gone. "Our keys are missing too," Maya said. "We were going to drive to the ranger station, but they're just gone. And Tyler's phone died. Mine too. The RV's radio doesn't work. Nothing works." We spent the next hour checking on the other RVs. Besides us, there were 4 others. Linda and her husband in spot 15, an elderly man by himself in spot 9, and another couple in spot 6 who introduced themselves as Robert and Jennifer. Everyone had the same story. Woke up with no memory, can't find their keys, phone's dead, fog everywhere. The elderly man was the worst. His name was written on a piece of paper in his pocket. William Morrison, age 72, diabetic. But he couldn't read. He stared at the paper like it was in a foreign language. When Maya tried to explain what it said, he just kept shaking his head and saying, "That's not me. That's not me." We decided to wait it out. The fog had to lift eventually, right? And maybe when it did, our memories would come back. That was the hope anyway. But the fog didn't lift. Instead, it got darker. Not nighttime dark, wrong dark. Like the light itself was being swallowed. By what I guessed was 3 p.m. based on my rumbling stomach telling me I'd missed lunch, it was already twilight dim. The fog pressed against the windows so thick I couldn't see the ground below the RV. David came back around then. I heard footsteps outside, heavy and uneven, and then a knock on the door. 3 quick raps. I opened it, and there he was. Tall, brown hair, glasses, wearing a fleece jacket I'd seen in the RV closet. He looked tired. There was mud on his jeans and his shoes, and a scratch on his face near his left eye. "Hi," he said and smiled. "Sorry I'm late." "Where were you?" I asked. "I've been looking for you. We've all been. There's something wrong. The fog did something to us. We can't remember." "I know," he said, still smiling. "But it's okay now. I figured it out." Something about his smile made my skin crawl. It was too wide, too fixed, like someone had told him to smile and he'd forgotten how to stop. "Figured what out?" I asked. "Can I come in? It's cold out here." I stepped aside, and he walked past me into the RV. He moved wrong, too stiff, like he was being careful with his joints. He sat down at the table and folded his hands in front of him, still smiling. "Where were you?" I asked again. "I went for a walk, into the woods, and I found something." "What did you find?" His smile widened. "I found where we are. We're at Fish Lake National Forest in Utah, spot 17. "No," he said softly. "That's not where we are, not really. This is somewhere else." I should have been relieved to see him. I should have been happy. But instead, I felt a cold weight settling in my stomach. "What are you talking about?" "You'll see," he said. "Everyone will see, when the fog is ready." "David? Is that my name?" He tilted his head. "David. David Brenner. That sounds right." "Yes, that's your name. You're David, I'm Jessica. We're together. We came here for a vacation. And something happened with the fog, and now we can't remember." "I remember everything," he said, and his smile finally dropped. Without it, his face looked blank, empty. "I remember what we were, what we are, what we'll become." I backed toward the door. "I'm going to get the others. They already know. Some of them, the ones who went into the woods, They came back and now they know. Know what? But he just shook his head and stood up. You'll understand soon. We all will. The fog is a gift, Jessica. It takes away the parts that hurt, the parts that make us afraid. Soon we'll all be the same. Soon we'll all be free. I ran. I didn't think about it, didn't plan it. I just turned and ran out of the RV into the fog toward Maya and Tyler's spot. Behind me I heard David, or the thing that looked like David, say, "It's okay. You can't leave." Maya and Tyler's door was locked. I pounded on it, shouting their names. After what felt like hours but was probably just seconds, Tyler opened it. He looked terrible, pale and sweating. "Something's wrong with Maya," he said. She was sitting on their bed, staring at her hands. When I came in, she looked up at me and I saw that her eyes were different. The pupils were too large, too dark, like looking into a well. "Maya," I said carefully. "I remember now," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I remember what I am. What we all are." "What are you talking about?" "We're not people," she said. "We never were. People are somewhere else. We're what's left when people go away." Tyler grabbed my arm. "She's been like this for an hour. She went outside to look for firewood and came back like this. I don't know what to do." "David came back too," I said. "He's the same way." "The same way as what?" I didn't know how to explain it. "Wrong. He's wrong." Outside, the fog was so thick now I could barely see the neighboring RV. The light was dying fast and I realized I had no idea what time it was or how long we'd been here. 1 day, 2 days, more. Time was slippery, refusing to stay in place. We found Linda and her husband in their RV. The husband, I never learned his name, was sitting at the table with a knife in his hand. Not threatening, just holding it, looking at the blade like he'd never seen one before. "He won't talk," Linda said. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. "He just sits there. He came back from the woods an hour ago and now he won't talk." "Don't let him near you," I said. "Something's wrong with the people who went into the woods." "I know," Linda whispered. "I know something's wrong. But he's my husband. I think he's my husband. I can't just leave him." But she couldn't remember his name either. Couldn't remember if they had children, or where they lived, or how long they'd been married. The fog had taken all of that. The old man, William, was dead. We found him in his RV when we went to warn him. He was lying on the floor, peaceful, like he'd just decided to lie down and never get up. There was no blood, no signs of violence. He'd just stopped. "Heart attack, maybe," Tyler said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Or he gave up," I said. "We couldn't bury him. The ground was too hard and none of us wanted to go into the woods. So we left him there, covered with a blanket, and moved on to the last RV, Spot 6, where Robert and Jennifer were staying. They were both wrong. I knew it the second Jennifer opened the door. She had that same too wide smile, that same empty look in her eyes. Behind her, Robert sat at the table, staring at nothing. "Hello," Jennifer said brightly. "We've been waiting for you." "Waiting for what?" Tyler asked. "To help you understand. The fog wants to help you understand." Maya pushed past us. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I understand now. It's better this way. Without memory, without past, without fear." "Maya, stop!" Tyler tried to grab her, but she shook him off and went inside the RV with Jennifer and Robert. Through the window, I watched them sit together at the table, all three of them smiling that terrible smile. They looked like mannequins, like props in a store window. Not quite human. "We have to go," I said to Tyler and Linda. "We have to get out of here." "How?" Linda asked. "The keys are gone. The ranger station is 5 miles away. It's dark. The fog." "We walk," I said. "We follow the road. If we stay here, whatever got to them will get to us." Tyler nodded. "Okay, let's do it." But Linda shook her head. "I can't leave him, my husband. Even if he's not right, I can't leave him." Linda, you go, she said. I'll stay. Maybe when the fog lifts, he'll be himself again. I wanted to argue, but what was the point? I barely knew her. We'd met this morning, or yesterday, or 3 days ago. Time meant nothing anymore. And maybe she was right to stay. Maybe we were wrong to go. Tyler and I left just after dark, or what we thought was dark. It might have been 3 in the afternoon. The fog had swallowed all sense of time and direction. We used the wooden post numbers to find our way to the entrance. 17, 16, 15, counting down. At spot 12, Tyler stopped. Wait, he said. I need to get something from our RV. We don't have time. But he was already running. I stood there in the fog, alone, listening to nothing. No wind, no animal sounds, no distant cars. Just silence, and that copper smell, and the feeling of being watched by things I couldn't see. Tyler came back carrying a backpack. Flashlight, he said. Water bottles, just in case. We walked toward the entrance. The ranger station should have been right there at the head of the loop. I'd seen it when we drove in. A small wooden building with a parking lot. But when we got to where it should have been, there was nothing. Just more fog and more empty space. This isn't right, Tyler said. The entrance should be here. We kept walking, following what we thought was the road. But the road kept curving back on itself, looping around and around. After what felt like hours, we found ourselves at spot 17 again. My RV, back where we started. No, Tyler said. No, we've been walking away from it. We didn't turn around. But we had, somehow. The fog had twisted the road, or twisted our perception, or twisted something fundamental about the space we were in. David was waiting outside my RV, still smiling. You came back, he said. I knew you would. We're not staying, I said. We're getting out of here. There's no out, David said gently. There's only here. This is where we live now, where we've always lived. The fog showed me. It can show you too. Tyler stepped forward. Stay away from us. David looked at him with that empty smile. You're afraid. I was afraid too. But the fog takes the fear. It takes everything that makes you hurt. Don't you want that? Don't you want to be free? Free from what? I asked, even though I didn't want to know the answer. From being, David said, from the weight of being a person. The fog takes it all away. The memories, the pain, the knowledge of death. Soon you won't remember anything. Soon you'll just be empty and clean and free. He reached out toward me and I saw that his fingernails were black. Not painted black. Black like rot, like something dead. When his fingers touched my arm, they felt cold. Corpse cold. I pulled away and ran again, Tyler right behind me. We ran back into the fog, away from David, away from the RVs, into the woods. Branches scratched at my face and arms, and I didn't care. All I cared about was getting away from that smile, that voice, those dead fingers. We ran until we couldn't run anymore, until our lungs burned and our legs gave out. We collapsed in a small clearing, gasping for air. The fog was thinner here, just barely, enough that I could see the ground and the trees. What is this place? Tyler asked. What's happening to us? I didn't have an answer. But sitting there in that clearing, catching my breath, I noticed something. A pattern in the trees. They were arranged in a circle around us, perfect and deliberate. Not natural, and carved into every trunk at eye level were symbols. Not letters, not numbers, just shapes that hurt to look at. They seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them, writhing and changing. Tyler, I said, look at the trees. He saw the symbols and went pale. What are those? I don't know, but we need to leave now. We stood up, turned to go, and found Maya standing at the edge of the clearing. She hadn't been there a second ago, she just appeared, like the fog had formed her out of nothing. You can't leave, she said in that flat, empty voice. This is where we are. This is where we've always been. The fog showed me. We're not in Utah. We're not in the world. We're in the place between, where things go when they're forgotten. Maya, You're not making sense, Tyler said. You're sick or something. The fog did something to you, but we can fix it. We can get you help. She shook her head slowly. There is no help. There's only forgetting. Come with me. David and the others are waiting. We're all together now. We're all the same. Soon you will be too. She took a step toward us, and that's when I saw it. Her shadow. It was moving wrong, bending at angles that didn't match her body, and it was getting larger, spreading across the ground like spilled ink. We ran again. Deeper into the woods, away from the clearing and the symbols and Maya's wrong shadow. I don't know how long we ran. Time was soup, thick and impossible to measure. It might have been minutes or hours or days. Eventually, we stumbled onto a trail. A real trail with markers and everything. Tyler checked his backpack and found a crumpled map. Somehow, impossibly, it showed us exactly where we were, about 2 miles from the main road. If we follow this, Tyler said, pointing at the map, we can get to the highway. We can flag down a car. We can get help. It sounded too good to be true. But what choice did we have? We followed the trail. It wound through the forest, up hills and down into ravines. The fog stayed with us but didn't get thicker. I started to hope. Maybe we really were getting out. Maybe the fog's hold was weakening. Then we came to a bridge. A small wooden bridge over a creek, probably used by hikers. Tyler went first, his footsteps echoing on the planks. I followed, looking down at the water below. That's when I saw my reflection. Except it wasn't my reflection. The face looking back at me was mine, but wrong. Older, sadder. It mouthed something, a word or name I couldn't hear, and reached up toward me. I stumbled back from the edge, nearly falling. Tyler grabbed my arm to steady me. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Did you see that? In the water?" "See what?" I looked again, but the reflection was normal now. Just me, looking tired and scared. "Nothing," I said. "I'm just tired." We crossed the bridge and kept walking. The trail opened up into a meadow, and there, at the far end, was the highway. I could see it, pavement, a yellow line down the middle. Real. We ran toward it. We were almost there, almost free, when Tyler stopped. "Wait," he said. "Jessica, wait." I turned. "What?" He was staring at me with a strange expression. Confusion, maybe, or fear. "What's your name, he asked. "Jessica, you know that." "Do I?" He looked down at his hands. "I can't. I don't remember. I don't remember who you are or why we're running or where we came from." "Tyler, no. Don't do this. We're almost out. Just a little further." But he was shaking his head. "Tyler, is that my name? It doesn't feel right. Nothing feels right. Why are we in the woods? What are we doing here?" The fog was coming back, rolling in from behind us like a wave. I could see it creeping across the meadow, swallowing the trail we'd just walked. "Run!" I grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the highway, but he resisted. "I don't want to run," he said. "I'm tired. I want to rest." "Tyler, please." "Who's Tyler?" He smiled. That same terrible smile I'd seen on David, on Maya, on all the others. "I don't know anyone named Tyler." I let go of his arm and ran alone. Across the meadow, toward the highway, toward escape. The fog chased me, but I was faster. I was going to make it. I reached the highway. I stood on the pavement, gasping, crying, and looked back. The meadow was gone. Just fog, solid and impenetrable. Tyler was somewhere in there. Lost. Everyone was lost. But I'd made it out. I was safe. I started walking along the highway, looking for a car, a gas station, anything. I walked for what felt like hours. The sun was setting, or I thought it was. The sky was turning dark anyway. And then I found it. The entrance to Fish Lake National Forest. The wooden sign, the ranger station, the parking lot. No, that was impossible. I'd walked away. I'd escaped. I was on the highway miles from the campground, but there it was, and there were the RVs. All of them, including mine. Spot 17. I walked up to my RV on numb legs. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. My phone on the table, the calendar on the wall, the dirty pan in the sink, and sitting at the dining table, smiling, was David. "Welcome back," he said. "I was wondering when you'd arrive." "This isn't real," I said. "I got out. I made it to the highway." "Did you?" He tilted his head. "Or did you just walk in a circle? The fog does that, you know. It makes you think you're leaving when really you're staying. Really, you're always staying." I sank into the chair across from him. I was so tired. Too tired to run anymore. "What is this place?" I asked. "What happened to us?" "We forgot," David said simply. "We came here and we forgot who we were, and now we're whoever we decide to be, or no one at all. It's peaceful, really, once you stop fighting it. I don't want to forget. You already have. You can't remember your mother's face, can you? Or your childhood, or what you do for work. It's all gone, Jessica. The fog took it, and soon it will take what's left." He stood up and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back to me. "The others are waiting," he said. "When you're ready, come join us. We're all together now. We're all the same." The door closed behind him and I was alone. I sat there for a long time, staring at my driver's license on the table. Jessica Marie Lane, 28 years old, from Portland, Oregon. I tried to remember Portland. What did it look like? What did it smell like? Nothing. Just blank space. I tried to remember my family. Did I have siblings? Parents? A dog? A cat? Nothing. I tried to remember yesterday or last week or last month. Nothing, nothing, nothing. All I had were the past few hours, or days, or weeks, I couldn't tell anymore. And even those were starting to blur. Had I really run through the woods? Had I really met Maya and Tyler? Or had I dreamed that part? I got up and looked in the bathroom mirror. My face stared back at me. I knew it was my face because it was attached to my head, but it didn't feel like mine. It was just a face. It could have belonged to anyone. The fog pressed against the window. I could hear voices outside now calling to me. David's voice, Maya's voice, others I didn't recognize. They were all saying the same thing. Come outside. Join us. Be free. I found a pen and paper and started writing. I needed to document this, needed to leave some record in case... In case what? In case I forgot. I was already forgetting. By the time I wrote this down, I might not even remember why I was writing it. But I wrote anyway. I wrote everything I could remember, which wasn't much. Names, dates, places, facts without context, a map without a legend. My name is Jessica Lane, I think. I'm at Fish Lake National Forest, I think. Something happened with the fog. People changed. They went into the woods and came back wrong. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're fine and I'm the one who's broken. I don't know anymore. The voices outside are getting louder. They want me to come out. They want me to be with them. To be like them. Empty and clean and free. I'm so tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. To let go. To forget everything and just exist without the weight of memory. Without the fear of who I was or who I'm supposed to be. The fog is seeping in through the vents. I can smell it. Copper and something else. Something sweet and rotten. My hands are getting cold. My fingernails are starting to turn black. I should be afraid, but I'm not. I just feel tired. So tired. They're knocking on the door now. 3 quick raps. David's voice. "Jessica, it's time." And maybe it is. Maybe it's time to stop fighting and just let go. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to join them. But before I do, I need to write this down. I need someone to know what happened here, even if that someone is just me tomorrow after I've forgotten everything again. My name is Jessica Lane. At least I think it is. The fog came down that night, and we forgot everything, except the fear. But even that's going away now. I'm opening the door, I'm stepping outside. The following was found written on a piece of paper in an RV at Fish Lake National Forest, Utah, discovered by park rangers on October 19, 2023. The RV was registered to David Brenner and Jessica Lane of Portland, Oregon. Neither individual has been found. The campground was empty when rangers arrived, though 5 RVs were present, all unlocked, with personal belongings still inside. There were no signs of struggle or foul play. An investigation is ongoing. My name is Emily Carter. This happened last September, and I'm still trying to make sense of it. My boyfriend David and I rented an RV for a week-long trip to Great Basin National Park in Nevada. We'd been planning it for months. Both of us needed to get away from work, from the city, from everything. David had just finished a brutal project at his architecture firm, and I was burned out from teaching. We thought a week in the wilderness would fix us. I should have known something was off when we couldn't find the campground. We left San Francisco on a Tuesday morning. The drive took longer than expected, traffic through Sacramento, then the endless stretch of highway through the desert. By the time we crossed into Nevada, it was late afternoon. David was driving. I had the GPS pulled up on my phone, and he had the dashboard navigation running on the RV's built-in system. "Turn right in 500 feet, the phone said. "Continue straight," the dashboard said at the same time. David laughed. "Well, which is it?" I looked at both screens. They showed different routes entirely. "That's weird. Mine's saying to take Highway 487. Yours is saying to stay on 50. Let's go with the dashboard one. It's probably more updated for RVs." So we stayed on 50. The sun was getting low, casting long shadows across the sagebrush. We passed a gas station, a few scattered houses, and then nothing. Just desert and mountains in the distance. After about 40 minutes, my phone started acting up. The GPS dot that represented us kept jumping around the map, placing us miles from where we actually were. Then it would snap back, then jump again. "Is your signal okay?" I asked David. He glanced at the dashboard. "Yeah, it's fine. Says we're about 20 minutes from the campground." But 20 minutes later, we weren't there. The dashboard said we'd arrived at our destination, but we were just on an empty stretch of road. No campground sign, no entrance, nothing. David pulled over. "Let me check the reservation." I pulled it up on my phone. Wheeler Peak Campground, Great Basin National Park. The confirmation email had an address and GPS coordinates. I typed them into my phone. "It says we're here," I said, showing him the screen. But we clearly weren't. We drove another 10 minutes down the road, thinking maybe we'd passed it. Nothing. Turned around, drove back. Still nothing. The sun was almost down now, and I was starting to feel anxious. We'd been on the road for nearly 12 hours. "There," David said, pointing. A dirt road branched off the highway, barely visible. No sign, but it looked like it could lead to something. We took it. The road was rough, full of potholes. The RV lurched and groaned. After about 2 miles, we came to a clearing with a few fire rings and picnic tables. It didn't look like an official campground, more like a dispersed camping area. "This'll work for tonight," David said. "We can figure out where the actual campground is in the morning." We parked, set up for the night. It was fully dark by then. No moon, just stars. More stars than I'd ever seen. It should have been beautiful, but instead it felt oppressive. The darkness was absolute. Our headlights and the RV's interior lights were the only illumination for miles. I made sandwiches while David checked the water and electrical hookups. There weren't any, which meant we were running on the RV's battery and water tank. Fine for one night. "At least there's no one else here," David said, coming back inside. "We've got the place to ourselves." That should have been comforting, but it wasn't. We ate, tried to relax. I wanted to call my sister, let her know we'd arrived safely, but I had no signal. David didn't either. "We're probably too far from a tower inn," he said. "We'll have signal tomorrow when we get to the actual campground." We watched a movie on my laptop until the battery got low, then went to bed. The RV had a queen bed in the back. It was comfortable enough, but I couldn't sleep. Every sound seemed amplified. The wind against the RV's sides, something scuttling outside, a distant coyote howl. "You awake?" I whispered to David. "Yeah. This place feels wrong. It's just because it's unfamiliar. We'll laugh about this tomorrow." But we didn't. I woke up around dawn. David was already up making coffee. I could smell it before I opened my eyes. "Morning," he said when I came out to the kitchenette. "Sleep okay?" "Not really." "Me neither. But look, sunrise." The desert was beautiful in the early light, all reds and golds. The anxiety from the night before seemed silly now. After breakfast, we decided to try finding the real campground again. I plugged the coordinates into my phone's GPS. It showed us a route. Backtrack to the highway, drive north for 8 miles, turn right. We followed the directions exactly. 8 miles north turned right onto another dirt road. This one was even worse than the first. The RV rocked violently over the ruts. After about a mile, the road dead-ended at a dry creek bed. "This can't be right," David said. I checked the GPS. According to it, we'd arrived at our destination, but there was nothing here. "Let me try the dashboard GPS," David said. He programmed in the coordinates. It calculated a route, back to the highway, south for 6 miles, turn left. We did that. 6 miles south, turned left. Another dirt road, another dead end, this time at a rocky hillside. David's jaw was tight. "This doesn't make sense." "Let me try Google Maps," I said. Same thing, different route, same result, nowhere. We tried 4 more times using different GPS apps, different devices. Each time we ended up at a dead end or just circling back to where we started. The morning stretched into afternoon. We were burning gas, getting frustrated and scared. "Maybe there is no campground," I said finally. "Maybe the coordinates in the email were wrong." "But I confirmed it with the Park Service last week," David said. "They said Wheeler Peak Campground, gave me directions." "Call them again." No signal. We sat in the RV, eating granola bars, trying to think. The heat was building. It was probably 90 degrees outside, and the RV didn't have AC without a hookup. "We could just go back to the clearing from last night," David suggested. "Set up there for the week. We came here to get away from everything anyway, right?" It wasn't a terrible idea. We had enough food and water for several days. The clearing had fire rings for cooking, and honestly, I was tired of driving in circles. "Okay," I said. "But let's try to get to a town tomorrow, make sure the RV's okay, and maybe find a working phone." We drove back to the clearing, or at least we tried to. This is where things got really strange. I was navigating, watching the GPS. "Okay, turn right up here, that should be the road back to the clearing." David turned, but after about 5 minutes we weren't on the same road. This one was paved, newer. We'd been on dirt before. "Did we take a wrong turn?" David asked. "I don't think so. The GPS says we're on the right road." We kept going. After another 10 minutes, the paved road turned to dirt. Then it ended at a fence line. Private property, no trespassing. "What the hell?" David threw the RV into park. I looked at the GPS. It says we're at the clearing, but we're clearly not. We turned around, tried again. This time we ended up at a different clearing, smaller, no fire rings, just empty desert. David was gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. "This is impossible. We've been to the clearing twice now. We know where it is." "I know. So why can't we find it?" I didn't have an answer. We tried for another hour. Every time we ended up somewhere different. Sometimes we recognized landmarks, a distinctive rock formation, a dead tree. But they'd be in the wrong place, or we'd approach them from a different direction than before. The sun was getting lower. We were down to half a tank of gas. "We need to stop," I said. "We need to pick a spot and just stop." David nodded. He looked exhausted and scared, which scared me more. David didn't get scared. He was the steady one, the problem solver. We pulled off at the next clearing we found. This one was larger, with several fire rings scattered around. In the center was a circle of rocks that looked like they'd been arranged deliberately, too perfect to be natural. "I don't like this spot," I said immediately. "Emily, we don't have a choice. We're burning gas and it's getting dark." He was right. We set up for the night. I'll skip over the details of dinner and trying to relax because nothing relaxed about that night. The circle of rocks bothered me. They were about 15 feet across with maybe 20 stones arranged in a perfect ring. Each stone was roughly the same size. In the center was a flat rock that looked like it could be a table or altar or something. "People probably just made a fire ring," David said when I mentioned it. "Then why is it so far from the picnic tables?" He didn't answer. We stayed inside the RV after dark. I tried to read, but I couldn't focus. David was on his laptop, trying to use offline maps to figure out where we were. Around 10 p.m. we heard something outside. Footsteps, crunching on gravel. We both froze. "Animal?" I whispered. David shook his head. Too heavy, too rhythmic. The footsteps circled the RV. Slow, deliberate. Then they stopped. We waited. Nothing. "Hello?" David called out. No response. He grabbed a flashlight, started for the door. "Don't," I said, grabbing his arm. If someone's out there, we need to know. Then we'll both go." We opened the door together. David shone the flashlight around. Nothing, no one, just desert and darkness. But the circle of rocks was different. The center stone had been moved. It was now standing upright like a small pillar. "Did you see anyone touch that today?" David asked. "No." We went back inside, locked the door. I know how stupid that sounds. Locking an RV door against whatever was out there. But it made me feel slightly better. Neither of us slept that night. In the morning, the standing stone was back in its original position, lying flat. "I'm losing my mind," David said, staring at it. "We both saw it standing up last night." "So what? It just laid back down." "I don't know." We had to make a decision. We were down to a quarter tank of gas. We had food for maybe 3 more days. Water for 4 or 5 if we conserved. "We need to find the highway," David said. "Just get back to 50, drive to the nearest town, figure this out." So we tried. We drove for 2 hours, following what we thought was the route back to the highway. We passed the same landmarks multiple times. That distinctive rock formation, that dead tree, a rusted barrel. Each time from a different angle, but definitely the same landmarks. And each time, the GPS showed us on a different road in a different location. "This isn't possible," David kept saying. "This isn't possible." But it was happening. Around noon, we ended up back at the clearing with the rock circle. I know it was the same clearing because the center stone was flat again, and our tire tracks were visible in the dirt. David turned off the engine. We just sat there. "What do we do?" I asked. "I don't know." That's when we heard the sound. It came from the north, beyond a low ridge, a humming, almost melodic, not mechanical, more like voices but not quite. It rose and fell in waves. "Are those people?" David asked. "Maybe. Maybe they can help us." We got out of the RV and walked toward the sound. It got louder as we climbed the ridge. At the top, we looked down into a shallow valley. There was nothing there. No people. No source for the sound. But we could still hear it, surrounding us now, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I felt dizzy. The ground seemed to tilt. "We should go back," I said. David was staring down into the valley. "Do you see that?" "See what?" "The air. It's shimmering, like heat waves, but it's not hot enough for that." He was right. The air was distorting, rippling, and in the ripples I could almost see shapes, like figures standing in the valley, watching us. "David, we need to leave. Now." He blinked, shook his head. Yeah, okay." We went back to the RV. The humming faded as we walked, then stopped completely once we were inside. "What was that?" David asked. "I don't want to think about it." We need to talk about what's happening. This isn't normal. This isn't a GPS malfunction or us being bad navigators. Something is wrong with this place." I know. So what do? We conserve our resources. We wait. Someone will notice we haven't checked in. Someone will come looking. But I didn't believe that. My sister knew we were going off-grid for a week. David's work knew he was on vacation. No one would expect to hear from us. And even if they did start looking, how would they find us? We couldn't even find ourselves. That afternoon, we rationed our water and food, took inventory of everything we had. We calculated that if we were very careful, we could last maybe a week, 10 days if we pushed it. We tried the GPS again, more out of desperation than hope. Every app showed us in a different location. One said we were in Utah, another said Arizona. The RV's dashboard said we were near Reno, which was clearly wrong. Around 4 p.m., David decided to hike out and look for help. I didn't want him to go, but we needed to try something. "I'll head west," he said, checking the compass on his watch. "The highway has to be somewhere. I'll walk for an hour, then come back whether I find anything or not. Promise?" "Promise." He took water, a flashlight, his phone even though it was useless. I watched him walk across the clearing and disappear over the ridge. I waited in the RV. Tried to read, couldn't. Tried to sleep, couldn't. Mostly I just watched the clock. An hour passed, then 2, then 3. David didn't come back. By 8 p.m. it was dark and I was panicking. I got the flashlight, went outside and called his name. No answer. I walked to the ridge, called again. Nothing. I was terrified to go farther. Terrified of getting lost too, of whatever was out there in the dark. So I went back to the RV and waited. He'll come back, I told myself. He just got turned around. He'll find his way back. But I didn't believe it. I don't know when I fell asleep. I know I was sitting by the window, watching for David's flashlight, and then suddenly it was morning and I was slumped in the chair with a terrible crick in my neck. David was outside. I saw him through the window, standing by the rock circle, his back to the RV. Relief flooded through me. I jumped up, threw open the door. "David, oh my God, where were you? I was so..." He turned around and I stopped talking. His face was wrong, not disfigured or injured, just wrong. His expression was too neutral, too blank, and he was smiling, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Hello, Emily," he said. "Where were you? What happened?" "I was walking." "For the whole night?" "Yes." He came closer. There was something off about the way he moved, too fluid, almost gliding. Or maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was just exhausted and scared and seeing things that weren't there. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You didn't get hurt?" "I'm fine." "David, you scared me. You said you'd be back in an hour." "Did I?" He tilted his head like he was genuinely confused. "I don't remember." "Yes, you did. You said you'd look for help and come back." I looked. There's no help. The way he said it, so flat, so emotionless, made my skin crawl. "Come inside," I said. "You must be exhausted." He followed me into the RV, sat down at the small table. I made him water, insisted he drink. He did, but mechanically, like he was following instructions rather than actually being thirsty. "What happened out there?" I asked. I walked west. The sun set. I kept walking. Then I turned around and came back. "That's it?" "That's it. David, you were gone for 16 hours. Was I? Did you find the highway? Did you find anything?" "No, just desert and the valley." "What valley?" "The one we saw yesterday. I went down into it." A chill went through me. "Why would you do that?" "I wanted to see." "See what?" He smiled that wrong smile again. "Them." I felt my throat tighten. "Who?" "The ones who live here." "David, you're scaring me." "Am I?" He seemed genuinely surprised. "I don't mean to. I just wanted you to understand." "Understand what?" "We're not lost, Emily. We're exactly where we're supposed to be." For the rest of the day, David acted more like himself. The weird blankness faded. He apologized for scaring me, said he'd been dehydrated and disoriented. He drank more water, ate some crackers, took a nap. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think it was just exhaustion and fear playing tricks on both of us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The way he looked at me sometimes, too intense, too focused. The way he'd sit completely still for minutes at a time, just staring at nothing. And that night, I heard him talking in his sleep. Not English, not any language I recognized. Rhythmic, almost melodic, like the humming we'd heard from the valley. I didn't wake him. I was too afraid of what he might say. The next morning, he suggested we hike to the valley. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. Emily, we need to understand what's happening. Whatever is in that valley. I don't care, we're not going. Then we're just going to sit here until we run out of food and water? We'll keep trying to find the highway. We'll find a way out. We've tried, you know we have. Every road leads us back here. Then we'll walk out, we'll leave the RV and just walk. In which direction? I didn't have an answer for that. Every direction seemed to lead in circles. Come with me to the valley, David said, just to look. If it's nothing, fine. But if there's something there, someone who can help, we need to know. David, you're talking crazy. You went there last night and came back different. I'm not different. Yes, you are. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. That same wrong smile from yesterday. Okay, I won't push, but I'm going. You can stay here if you want. Don't leave me alone again. Then come with me. I should have refused. I should have locked myself in the RV and waited. But I was terrified of being alone. And some part of me, the rational part that kept insisting there had to be a logical explanation, thought maybe David was right. Maybe there was someone in that valley who could help us. So I went. We walked over the ridge around 10 a.m. The sun was high, the heat building. The valley looked the same as before, empty, just rocks and scrub brush. But as we got closer, I started to hear the humming again. Do you hear that? I asked David. Yes. What is it? I'm not sure, but it's not dangerous. How do you know? I just do. We descended into the valley. The air started shimmering again, rippling, and in the ripples I saw them, the figures I'd half seen before. They were tall, impossibly tall, and they didn't move like humans. They were there and not there, flickering in and out of existence. David, we need to leave. They won't hurt you, he said calmly. How do you know? Because they told me. I grabbed his arm. When? When did they tell you? Last night, when I came here. David, please, we need to go, now. But he wasn't listening. He was walking toward the center of the valley, toward the figures, and the figures were moving toward him. I ran after him, trying to pull him back, but he was stronger than me. Or maybe I was just too scared to fight hard enough. The figures surrounded us. Up close, they were even more wrong. Humanoid shapes made of shadow and light, constantly shifting. They had faces, sort of. Eyes that were too large. Mouths that didn't move when the humming grew louder. One of them reached out. Its hand, if you could call it that, passed through David's chest. He gasped, but didn't pull away. Stop! I screamed. Leave him alone! But they weren't listening to me. They were focused on David, and he was focused on them. His eyes had gone blank again, that same empty expression from yesterday. Then something grabbed my ankle. I looked down. The ground was moving, rippling like water. Hands, dozens of hands, were reaching up from below, grasping at me. I screamed, tried to run, but they held me tight. They were pulling me down into the earth. David finally looked at me. Don't fight, he said. It's easier if you don't fight. Help me. They just want to understand us, just like we want to understand them. David, please. But he turned away, turned back to the figures, and they took him, merged with him, passed through him, and when they pulled back, he fell to the ground. The hands released me. I crawled to David, shook him. He was breathing but unconscious. The figures watched me. The humming grew louder, almost deafening. I could feel it in my bones, in my skull. It was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The figures faded. The hands disappeared back into the ground. The air stopped shimmering, and David opened his eyes. "We can leave now," he said. I don't remember walking back to the RV. I don't remember helping David, who was weak and stumbling. I don't remember the rest of that day. The next thing I clearly recall is sitting in the RV at dawn, David asleep in the back. My hands were shaking, my head was pounding. I looked at the GPS on my phone. It showed a clear route to the highway, straight line, no circles, 8 miles east. I woke David up. "We're leaving, now." He nodded. He looked exhausted, pale, but he didn't argue. We drove east. The GPS worked perfectly. No jumping around, no false routes. After exactly 8 miles, we reached Highway 50. I started crying. David pulled over and held me while I sobbed. "It's okay," he said. "We're out. We're safe." But I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't sure about anything anymore. We drove straight to Ely, the nearest town, found a motel with Wi-Fi. I called my sister, told her we were fine, just had some car trouble. She asked if we were having fun. I said yes. David slept for 18 hours straight. When he woke up, he said he felt better. Said he barely remembered the valley or what happened there. It was all a blur, like a dream. I didn't push him. I was too afraid of what he might say if he did remember. We stayed in Ely for 2 days, then drove home to San Francisco. We returned the RV, went back to our lives. David went back to work. I went back to teaching. But things weren't the same. David was different. Subtle things at first. He'd forget words, forget where we'd put things. He'd stare at walls for long periods. Sometimes I'd catch him speaking in his sleep, that same strange language. And there were other things. Coincidences, maybe, but unsettling. His GPS still doesn't work right. Neither does mine. We can't use navigation apps anymore. They always lead us in circles no matter where we're trying to go. We've learned to use paper maps, to navigate by landmarks. Sometimes late at night I hear humming, not from David, from outside, from the city streets. A rhythmic, melodic sound that makes my skin crawl. And sometimes when I look at David in a certain light, I see something else. A flicker, like the air shimmering, like something else is there just beneath the surface. Last week, David suggested we take another trip. "Maybe back to Nevada," he said. "I feel like we left something unfinished there." I said no. He didn't push. But I saw that smile, the wrong smile, flash across his face. This morning I found something in his backpack. A stone, roughly circular, smooth. It looks like the stones from the circle in the clearing. I asked him where he got it. He said he didn't know what I was talking about. Said there's no stone in his backpack. But it's there. I'm looking at it right now, and it's humming. I don't know what happened to us in that desert. I don't know if we actually escaped or if we're still there, somehow driving in circles for eternity. I don't know if David is still David, or if something else is wearing his face. I don't know if I'm losing my mind, or if the world really is different now. Tilted, wrong, full of shadows that move without light. What I do know is this: I can't find my way anywhere anymore. Every path circles back to where I started. Every map shows me somewhere I'm not. Every reflection in the mirror looks just slightly off. And every night I dream of the valley. I dream of those tall figures reaching for me. I dream of hands pulling me down into the earth. In the dreams, I don't fight. Because David was right. It's easier if you don't fight. Sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails. Sometimes I wake up and David is standing at the window, staring out at the city. When I ask what he's looking at, he says, "Them." I don't ask who them is. I'm scared to know. Yesterday I found another stone. This one was in my purse. I'm certain I didn't put it there. Today I found 3 more. One on my desk at work, one in my car's cup holder, one in the shower. They're spreading. Or maybe I'm bringing them home. Maybe I'm walking in circles even when I think I'm going forward. Maybe we never left the clearing. Maybe we're still there, sitting in that RV, trying to navigate our way out while the stones multiply around us and the figures watch from the valley. And David smiles that wrong smile and tells me everything is fine. Maybe that's what hell is. Not fire and punishment, but an endless loop. The same day, the same fear, the same desperate hope that this time you'll find your way out, but you never do. You just circle back to where you started. Again and again and again. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. If you're reading this, if you find it somehow, please listen. Don't trust your GPS. Don't trust your maps. Don't trust the roads. And if you ever find yourself in the Nevada desert, circling back to the same clearing with the same stone ring, turn around. Don't stay the night. Don't go to the valley. Don't let them touch you. Because once they do, you're never really free. You'll carry them with you. In your dreams. In your reflections. In the stones that multiply in your pockets. And the humming that follows you home. You'll look at the people you love and wonder if they're really still themselves or if something else is inside them, looking out through their eyes. You'll look at yourself in the mirror and wonder the same thing, and you'll never know for sure. That's the worst part. Not the fear, not the strangeness. The uncertainty. The not knowing if what you experienced was real or if you're losing your mind or if there's even a difference between the two anymore. This morning, David asked if I wanted to go camping next weekend. Just a short trip, he said. Maybe to the desert. I said no. I said I never want to go camping again. He nodded, understanding. But tonight, when I came home from work, I found a map on the kitchen table, a road atlas open to Nevada. Someone had drawn a circle on it in red ink, right over Great Basin National Park. And inside the circle, in handwriting I don't recognize, were the words, "Come back." I showed it to David, asked if he'd drawn it. He said no, he hadn't seen any map, but his hands were stained with red ink. I need to end this account. I need to stop thinking about it, stop obsessing. Maybe if I just live my normal life, it will fade. Maybe the stones will stop appearing. Maybe the humming will stop. Maybe David will go back to being David. Maybe I'll go back to being me. But I don't think that's going to happen. Because this morning I opened the GPS on my phone. Just to check. Just to see. It showed me a single route. No address, no destination name. Just coordinates. The coordinates for the clearing. And the estimated time of arrival was yesterday.